Rabotai. Welcome to another Tuesday night shiur. Smooth landing today. Today is a smooth landing. Okay, Yoshua? Nothing too bizarre. Tiruma! We are right now in the addition of the 2 weeks of what? Shovavim.
Still continuing?
Yeah, because this year is a leap year, so we have 2 additional weeks. Tetza, it's called Shovavim Tat, which the Ari brings down, which in reality, Shovavim is always Shovavim, but this is like the Gishmak part of Shovavim is this last 2 weeks. The tshuva you can know, I'm telling you, when Hashem wants you to feel a certain way, He'll make you feel that way. If it's through stress or if it's through certain hargashot and feelings, something you don't even know why is this happening to you. But it's a certain kind of feeling that it's a certain kind of experience HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to go through. Someone told me that he was going through such a hard time in the Shovavim, he practically fasted the whole Shovavim in the daytime, almost every single day, because he was going through so much stress that he didn't eat. He only ate a little bit at night just because he needed to eat something, but he was going through so much worry and things were just not falling properly. Practically fasted the whole Shovavim.
That's not healthy.
And he didn't even, it wasn't intentionally. He didn't even realize, he didn't chap what's going on. And it's amazing because it's something I can personally relate to on certain different aspects. But a person always comes and they always judge. Oh, why is this? Why is that? And it says in the Sifrei Musar, in the Sifrei Chassidut, you always have to go back and recalculate your masim. If you go back and recalculate your masim, your actions, masim means actions, you'll realize where is the downfall. You'll realize why is certain things happening to you. I was today going through, I don't know what came to me. I went downstairs, I took a sefer from my library. I don't like to call it a library, but from my orange shop. Study room. And I one time bought the sefer, it's called Ha'elima from the Ramak. I asked my Rebbe to buy it for me, one of my high school reps, because he was in that area that sold the sefer. And for some reason, just such a cheshek to me to open up that sefer. Out of hundreds of, maybe even thousands of books that I have, I was like, let me take this, like, I don't know what it was. And what did I open up to? Masechet Chibut HaKever. Yeah. There's a Masechet, there's a tractate in it. It's not in this. They put it in a Likut in a different section. Masechet Chibut HaKever. And I was amazed, my first time hearing such a thing. What's Chibut HaKever? The awakening of the grave. What does that really mean? After a person passes away, there's a certain judgment that happens to you in the grave. I'm not going to get into it now, but it gave me such an immense yad shamayim going through it. It was like, I'm going to talk about it hopefully tomorrow. Tomorrow we're having another shiur here, another small shiur, big shiur. It's my grandfather's yahrzeit, so my father's doing something here, and I'm going to talk about that specifically tomorrow. But it's so amazing how we think how Olam Hefker, this world is, you can do whatever you want. And we don't realize that everything that we do or everything that we experience or everything that we did, we will have to answer for it. And it even happens unintentionally. Things happen in your course of your life and you're like, wow. And if you just sit down and do cheshbon nefesh and you think about it, you'll understand that it's happening because of A, B, C, and D. Many stories of people that were mevazeh, they embarrassed the person they were going out with. They couldn't get married for years until they did cheshbon nefesh. They had to go and apologize, and after they apologized, they got married. Or if it's with kids, or if it's with a rebbe that abused kids, and so on and so forth. Not abused out of mechanech, but abused out of to feel like he's more superior. It's two different things. I'm not getting into it right now. Okay, let's get into this parasha. We just said before the shiur started that Parashat Tirmiyah, everyone talks about only Vasuli Mikdash Vishahanti Betocham. Make for me a sanctuary and I will dwell in it. Arabim, Yachid, so on and so forth. But today that's not my topic. And even though everything really has to do with that, if someone has Yad Shamayim and someone works on himself and someone wants to become close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you make yourself that vessel, Hashem will dwell in you. He will dwell in you. He will physically, whatever that means, I'm not going to get into that right now, but you will feel godliness. But you have to be a proper kli. If you're not a proper vessel, then what are you asking for? A person has to really ask for it in order to receive it. But when he really asks for it and he's not ready for it, Hashem will stretch him out just to make his will come true. And it's very scary. And I always say to people, don't wish to be rich unless you're willing to live that stressful life. Because if you're not willing to live it, that weariness, that thinking, that money. I was reviewing with my son the Gemara, Masechet Bab Metzia. So on Chaf Aleph Amud Bet, there's a question. If you lose something, the person, there's a machlokes Abai and Rava, if a person has to have in mind that he gives up hope, and then another person can acquire it. So someone says, the question the Gemara says, oh, let's say you lose something and you don't know that you lost it, and someone already found it. Did he acquire it or not? So the Gemara was talking. The Gemara goes into different scenarios, and the Gemara talks about money. There's a special din in money that if a person finds it, you can assume that the owner already gave up hope. Why? Let's say you just found it, because a person that has money is always used to checking his pockets, checking if he has that money. See a person that's in the stock market or invests in certain things, he's on his phone 24/7. Why? He's checking his account. You just checked 5-10 minutes ago. What are you doing? Someone that has money, always, his mind is what?
Money.
Kesef, money, investment, how, what, where, when. And it's so beautiful, the Gemara. This is 2,000 years ago this was written. When what? They were trading pebbles. They lived they didn't live in such advanced technology. And yet the Gemara says people don't change. The habits that were are the same habits there are. We just don't see it that way because we think we're more superior. Someone sent me a video today of someone in the Israeli parliament. Even though I'm not a Zioni in any way, shape, or form, so isn't any true someone that has Yad Shamayim. Of course, we hold that we have to save every single Yehudi wherever they are and whatever the case is, but doesn't mean we have to stand for certain ideologies. That's the difference between certain sects of Ashkenazim and the Sfaradim. The state of Israel was established, everyone was against it before. But now that it's established, what do? So us Sfaradim said, there's nothing we can do, we have to go in and we have to help as much. Doesn't mean we agree, but if we can take advantage of the situation, we have to take advantage. And some said, we're not touching it. That's it, they're all Asur, they're all the Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Hayim. They're both right into their own standard. We Sfaradim weren't like that. We said we have to go in and help as much as we can. I saw myself when Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef was not sworn in, but was elected or was given the mantle of Rishon LeZion, and they were singing the Israeli anthem. You can see this video. No Sephardi posek sang it. Or why they didn't even stand up. It's customary to sing it. They didn't sing it. Why? Because it's not derech. It's shilton of Erev Rav. And how do we know the shilton of Erev Rav is falling? I saw a video of a lady in the Israeli parliament got up and said, I'm very, very upset that the system in the land of Israel, the education system robbed me. They robbed me of knowing what is real Judaism, what it is to be a Jew. People think to be a Jew is to wear Magen David. How I said last week, the African Americans that are in Manhattan saying they're Israelites, they also wear Magen David. They think they're more Jewish than we are. Maybe they are. Because for us, Judaism is just, you have a Star of David, you have the Israeli flag. What does that mean? That doesn't make you Jewish or not Jewish. What makes you Yehudi is someone that keeps Torah mitzvot. How can you keep Torah mitzvot if you don't learn Torah? How? It's impossible. Impossible. What happens is you don't do it, your kids won't do it, and they'll marry off. They'll marry out of Judaism. And then you'll say, why? What happened? You are the cause of your own fire in your house. That's another thing in Chibud HaKever, how parents get judged. Why their kids came out the way they came out. It's one level of judgment. How come your kids came out the way they came out? And they beat up the parents in front of the child. Because it was your responsibility to put them in place. So understand the responsibility. You guys are not married yet. Some are, whoever's listening, whatever the case is. You have a responsibility to put your kids in the Torah mitzvot. And how do you do it? Simple. There's one main key in raising kids. The only thing that I will ever suggest most people, and everything comes out from that, don't be a hypocrite. Practice what you preach. Practice what you desire. If you desire a certain path, you have to live it. And if you live it, not because you're forced, but you live it because you live it and you want to, your kids will latch onto it. And if not, you play the double-sided, right? The two-face. What happens then? The kid will also play it. Where did he learn it from? From the four corners of his own house. It's a number one thing. It's a number one. This is the basis of raising the kids. Don't be a hypocrite. So she said, they robbed me from Judaism. Now after the war that came, I started learning about Torah mitzvot. She said, everything that the Torah mitzvot tells us, science now is catching up to. We already had all this. This was old tradition from Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. And what do we do with our own Torah? You throw it in the garbage. We don't care. Be honest to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. We don't care for it. We respect it maybe. We hold highly of it, but we don't care for it. We don't. And how do I know? Because if we cared for it, we would live by it. The fact we don't live by it, that means we don't care for it. It's like a person that starts his life and he meets someone and they start together through struggle and through hardship, and as they grow, and he gets very high and she was always supporting him, and after he reaches that point, he says to her, I'm done with you. But she was his backbone. How can you do that? That means his intentions in the beginning was very shvach. He didn't care for her any. He was there for the joyride. And there is another person. A person that through struggle, and even though his wife is a housewife, but she always gave him that chizuk, that, he makes it. He makes it. And he'll never leave her. And he can get whatever he wants now. You have the money, right? All the zonot come out when you have the money, right? Suddenly, everyone notices you. You can be the size of, sumo wrestler, but you have the money. Ya habibi, they'll all run to you. Run! Why? Kesef is zahav. So a person has to be a chacham. When he suits a mate, when he suits someone that he wants to grow, he has to understand, is she willing to struggle? If 100%. That person is not willing to struggle with me and grow, it's a big issue. Entitled people, entitled men or women is extremely dangerous. And that's why I tell me that when you raise your kids, if you only know how to give and don't know how to take or discipline or learn to say no, you're raising a spoiled brat. And what's gonna happen? You're gonna see very, very much hardship later in their life. But I want to give to them. Sometimes not giving is actually giving. Sometimes knowing when to say no is the greatest gift in the world. But my parents did that. I was so miserable. What happened to you? Look, you're perfectly fine. Oh, but I felt bad. Too bad. What does that mean? You felt bad. Congratulations. Mazal tov. Grow up. Pass the stage. And weiter. If we're always gonna dwell on the things that we felt and not see the good that came out of it, we're just gonna stay in the mud for the rest of our life. We don't realize this, and we see this in this week's parasha. What did you want to ask before I continue?
I just wanted to ask, when you go on a date, right? You're saying that with the money. How do you put that in when you're not talking?
No.
You let her know.
You're not here to machanach her. You're not here
not saying to educate.
I understand. I know what you're saying. I'm going to answer you. You're not here to educate her on struggle and accepting me for who I am. She has to already be molded in it. I know it hurts.
It's very likely.
No, it's not. No, it's very likely you're just not seeking in the right pond. You can't go to a pond and try to fish for a shark. It doesn't work. Sharks are not in ponds.
I don't know.
You understand? You can't do that. You can't go to, I don't know, Dominican Republic and go on the beach there and in the waters there and suddenly say, I want to see a polo bear. Maybe here, first of all, you're in the wrong continent.
What's a polo?
You know, you're not supposed to be there. So that's exactly what you're asking. There are tzedkaniot like that. Don't say. It bothers me when men say that. There are good, really good girls that are willing to go with you as long as they see that you are not going for a joyride. They see that you're willing to grow. Girls have to know. They have to put their desires of I want this and I want that and the carrot has to be like this and this. They have to put that aside and say that's not important really. Oh, but it was my dream to make that. You'll dream when your 10-year anniversary, then do these dreams. No, it takes time. It takes certain struggles, but it's there. You know what the problem is? The problem is when you get into a relationship with an entitled person. When you hit rock bottom, which you will, everyone hits it in their marriage before they grow. Here's what I thought. Is she the one that's gonna say, "Oh, I had so many better opportunities. Oh, what am I still doing with you? Oh, I'm gonna tell my parents about." Whoa. What does this have to do with us? Like, what is this? This is nonsense. And so too to the guy. The guy can never say certain things. Why I married you? Look at you. You just know how to spend. You don't know how to this. Yeah. He has to learn how to shut his mouth and know how to deal with the situation properly. That's the way it works.
What if you guys both?
There's no what if, but this. We're not getting into that thing. You first get married, then we'll talk about that. You understand? That goes for all of you here. He's not the only one. So that's something. That's something you guys have to understand. And as you get older, you realize more how important that is. And that's why people in a higher age have a very hard time getting married.
Because they're not.
Because they already understand certain things and they're scared of this thing. When you're young, you just care about one thing. So your mind is clouded. And then you have to work on yourselves. But okay, that's good. That's why Hashem created us purposely. But as you get old, you start to see But there's also benefit in that. But yet there's also a negative in that. Right? The coin gets flipped either way. What's your question before I asked him his question because I was waiting for you to get into what I want to say, but go ahead.
There will be times where people look hypocritical, but they're not.
True. But the only people that matters to is your wife and your kids.
Uh-huh.
I look very hypocritical a lot of the times. A lot. Right? And but just the way I look, the way I act, the way with the people I deal with a lot of with a lot of fried people, a lot of not religious people, and I get along with them. Like they'll tell me like, if you wouldn't be religious, it would have been over by now. We would have been conquering and doing different things. And you know, and it's like I'm very close to these people. Like, I would die for these people. That's how close I am to them. And at the same time, you'll see me the next 10 minutes go learning a daf Gemara with someone for an hour with Rishonim and Achronim. And it's like, how did he just do that? He's not here. This guy is crazy. He's not normal. You guys have to stop because I can't do this. Right? You understand? So you have to understand that. You know who knows if you're really a hypocrite? Your wife and kids. Because if you come home and then you start talking like that, and you start acting like that, and you start doing certain things, that's bad. That means their influence is rubbing off on you, and that is affecting the house. That's what I'm saying. The only people that you have to worry about of having that hypocritical image or so on and so forth is your wife and kids.
Wow.
It's extremely important. People don't know this because maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Everyone heard of Lipa Schmelzer, right?
Yeah.
That singer? I don't know if everyone knows the story. He fried out, he came back, and basically trying to find himself different Ashkenaz and Hasidic politics and drama. And I'm not going to get into it right now because it's not irrelevant really to get into it. Whoever knows, whoever doesn't, doesn't. But he had an interview and he said something very important, and I think most people don't understand this. Unfortunately, because we live in in a box, that if we think everything has to revolve around this box. I have friends that only move to Lakewood to fit in. You know what I mean? Like, I look at them, I'm like, you're fake to you're fake to yourself. Like, I'm not telling you to move to a jungle right now and keep trying to there alone. But if you can't do that, potentially, then that's a problem. So the Sleeper Schmelzer said something very, very, very important. He said, everyone is an employee of something called the image company. The image company is run by you, but invested, this is what I'm adding, invested by the whole world. That means you do things just for your image to be
pristine.
Exactly.
But it's a reputation, no?
Stop with that. Stop. 1 second. We're going to get into that. When a person lives any lifestyle and they do it for other people's acceptance and image, that's where the downfall is. But if you're living for yourself, meaning not for other people's approvals or acceptance and so on and so forth, automatically, even though we might be part of that company, we're not affected by it. What are the greatest Talmidei Chachamim? The ones that can tell their supporters, your money is not going to make a difference on my psak din. Who are the bad Rabbanim? The ones that say, okay, you did this, you're under the table, you can do this, halachically that. This is a very big Musai scale. People don't know this. Now, thank you so much. Now we have to understand, there is good and bad in everything. There's good and bad in everything in life. We have to understand it's very, 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 very important. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol hiya b'dvaro. A person has to be a hacham and know how to take the good. How you say? Person looks hypocritical. Who does it matter to? It only matters to the family. Because the people that really know you know that this guy, he's rock solid. He's rock solid. Even though he hangs out with certain people and he has certain crew, he's not affected by them. And what happens when those people come next to you, when you're next to your family? They know, like, there's a certain way they need to be.
That means, by that notion, what you just explained, that I can technically, if I am too lazy or too uninterested to become a from Jew, I can just throw my kippah away, start keeping my kosher, start sleeping around. I can stop keeping Shabbat, all because I don't want to be religious anymore. I will not care about my reputation or my image. Okay, fine. But why?
And the people that do that really don't care about their image. And the people that don't do that only care about their image. So the guy that goes to the strip club and says, Rabbi, I saw Hasidim over there, or I saw Jews there, right? Can't hide the peot. What is he actually doing in the strip club? Excuse me that I'm saying this thing. He's not really keeping anything. Now, I'm telling you, of course it's better to still keep his kippah and his tzitzit and so on and so forth. But you have to understand, he's doing that not because he wants to. He's doing that to fit an image.
Okay, Rabbi, someone can fall down. Someone can still fall down.
I'm never judging any human being in my life. I don't judge. I know people fall, as the Gemara says, if you want to sin, leave the city, leave the town, wear something black, no one should see you, do avirot, and then come back. Right? That's the Gemara. I'm not saying, of course, we don't do this stuff anymore because everything is in an instant nowadays, right? Of course, if someone, my point of saying this is be true to yourself. At the end of the day, be true to yourself. We have to learn to be honest with oneself. Oh, but I'm going to ruin this one. Stop with that already. If you hate Torah mitzvot, you have to ask yourself, why do I hate it? Because really, Torah mitzvot, there's really nothing to hate about it. People hate it is because they were exposed to it by people that didn't represent it properly. And I can say this firsthand. I got very connected to my Rebbeim because the way they expressed certain things to me was totally in a different lens than how I was exposed to it as a child growing up. They're both right, but that just didn't match me. It didn't match my neshama. And now, I do exactly how my parents taught me. Because they weren't wrong, they were 100% right. But the way they expressed or the way they were teaching me these methods, for me at that time, was just not right. Do you understand? Yeah. So people can always say, oh, my Rebbe, he did this to me when I was young. My parents forced me to do this. Blah, blah, blah. Correct. They did it. And I agree they did it. But that doesn't mean they're right. And that doesn't mean you're right now. I always tell my Talmidim, especially the ones that come from religious families, I said, you know what the greatest revenge is for your parents? Not to throw Torah mitzvot. That's going to prove how they were right and you were wrong the whole time. But to find a way in the Torah mitzvot that makes you so attached to it that when they see you, they said, how come he succeeded with that rabbi and not with me?
And
it kills the parents so much because deep down they know that they messed up. Because the son just found a different way to make kasher himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, I'm not doing this to make the father feel bad, but I'm doing this in the same time to make the father feel good because his child's keeping Torah mitzvot, and the child, for him to see that there's another way of expressing to keep Torah mitzvot. And it's all under the guidelines of Torah. Right? Chanoch nar al pi darko. Discipline your child according to his way, not your way. Correct? I can say this firsthand. Every one of my children, each one needs a different tone of voice. Each one needs a different kind of discipline. Why? Because this one understands after saying it a half a time. This one understands it after saying it 10 times. And this one just needs to see me and he already understands. Game over. You know what I mean? Like they already know. But what's the difference? Every single child has a different kind of experience. Put your shirt on. Do you understand? You understand? But this is the punchline. This is what I'm gonna hopefully get into a little bit, and then we're gonna finish with this. If we take the measurements of the Kodesh, right?
Kodesh.
The whole Kodesh area, right? In the Mishkan, where the menorah was, where the Shulchan, the Aron, all that. If you take the inside of the Mishkan,
Yeah.
and you do the math, and then you do the math of all the I don't want to say utensils, but all the things that were inside the Mishkan,
Objects.
they don't add up. I don't know how I don't want to say it, but how no goy figured this out to use it in the debate. They're so dumb. You know, it doesn't match. It's off by a couple of cubics size.
The stuff inside are bigger than the actual measurements of the room.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to talk about today. Doesn't make sense! How is the menorah, the shulchan, the things to do the Torah on, how is that bigger in size than the actual Mishkan? It shouldn't go. And they all fit in. How did they all fit in? How did it all fit in?
Miracle.
A miracle. Shkoyach. We all know that. We all know that. But that's not something that a person. I don't know. The late Sanut, you know, David HaMelech wrote, a person shouldn't be next to people that just do late Sanut. Masach Ketubot says one late Sanut, one like that can break 1,000 feelings of getting close to Hashem. You have to break that. You have to work on yourself. You have to break that. Okay? I'm sorry, it's a little bit hard, Musar. We're going Litvish right now at this moment, right? But you have to understand that you have a power, and if you use that power for the exact opposite of what you're doing, how much greater will it be? Look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how did it fit?
Can we do the math?
You can do the math on your own time. And come tomorrow when I'm going to do a small thing here. It's going to be food and everything. And then you can do it. We'll do it together on the thing.
What time tomorrow?
Shui, we'll talk about your food. Your shirt jumped up. Now! Rabbi side, listen to this. How come in the Hasidic Sfarim, especially by the Chabad, they're pounding on this sugya? There are books and pages about it. What's going on? What's going on over here? It shouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. How did they all fit? You know, all the Kelei Mishkan, they all corresponded to something. The Aron, the Menorah, the Mizbeach, the Shulchan. They all correspond to you know, what controls our body?
Hashem, technically. But
Our brain.
our brain, our spine.
Our brain. Our brain controls our body. How is something so small, right, control this whole body? It doesn't make sense. It should be that this whole body should control the brain. Right? Something so compact. It's smaller than you think, your brain. It's tiny, really.
Toothless.
It's nothing. It's mamish nothing.
So why is it
How
powerful?
is something so delicate? It's also the most delicate. You know, it's like a sponge. You ever felt a brain in your hand?
It's like a gum.
You ever felt it? It's not
No.
like a gum.
I heard it's like
No, it's not like gum. It's the exact opposite. It's like boiling peas, and like you know how you just squash it, and that's how a brain is. It's extremely delicate. How? That's why it has such a thick protection. Your skull is very thick for a reason, because it's protecting the most important thing. We have to understand when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the Mishkan, he actually was putting something beyond Tam V'dat, beyond explanation on this earth. That beyond explanation on this earth was the Mishkan, and one day ended up to be also the Beit HaMikdash. And we feel we can get into it, how if you take all the things in the Mishkan, how the Shulchan corresponds to certain things in the body of a human, and the Menorah corresponds to certain things in a human, and the Mizbeach, and the Aharon with the Luchot, how every little thing has a corresponding to this world beyond our understanding. And Hashem did that for one reason, not just because it was a miracle. Because to achieve Torah mitzvot, even though it looks impossible, even though we feel sometimes so limited, know what we're doing is so unlimited. The mitzvot we have are unlimited, connecting to Hashem, which had to be bottled up on this earth for us to connect to that unlimited. And the greatest mashal I always say is tefillin. What is tefillin? It's made out of an animal. It's made out of a cow. Take the tefillin, the box, and you put it on your head. And what's so special about it? That's your connection to such a high level that Hashem had to dense it out, and then it's called tzimtzum after tzimtzum after tzimtzum after tzimtzum. Hashem had to enclose himself into all these things in order for you, Eliyahu, when you wake up in the morning tired, half alive, half not alive, not knowing what you're saying in the Siddur, put it on, and he said, I'm going to give you the koach bal korcha, even without you thinking of you getting it. Before, how was it? Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov used to meditate, and they used to draw down all these kochot. Moshe Rabbeinu came, and Hashem said, we're changing the field. The era of Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov are over. We're charting a new era. Everyone's going to draw down this. How? Just by keeping the Torah mitzvot. When you keep it, you draw it down. Of course, the more kavanah, the more you can absorb and take. And that's the point of the Mishkan. The point of the Mishkan was to be above understanding, above knowledge, above of thinking of, we have this the emunat chachamim, the believing in our teachers are so weak. There's a story I heard this story from Al-Wadia, actually. Al-Wadia one time, he used to give a shiur on Tisha B'Av, and he said a story how the Balatanya had a grandson, Menachem Mendel, Tzemach Tzedek, and he was very smart. And back in the day in Europe, kids that were smart got picked up to get married very fast. If you're a Talmid Chacham, you come from such a lineage of scholars, even faster. He got married when he was very young, I think 15. And when he was, before they signed the deal, his father-in-law gave him a big amount of money. A big amount of money. This was his dowry to marry his daughter. And he went to his grandfather right after he got engaged, that his grandfather should, or right before he got engaged, just give a mazel tov and to seal the deal. He went to his grandfather and they start talking. They start to get into the conversation of the money. And the Balatanya says to his grandson, Baruch Hashem, you got a very big bounty. This is my advice to you. Take the money, leave it by me, and I have a certain business that I do, that I do business with people, and with the same money that I do business, some I give to tzedakah and some I keep for the family. And the Tzemach Tzedek heard, and he said, okay, I'll think about it, and he left. He got married. A couple of weeks after his wedding, he runs to his grandfather, the Balatani, and he starts to cry. And he started crying, and he said, Zaidi, you don't know what happened. What happened? The money that my father-in-law gave me, we're talking about, at that time, if it would be equivalent today, like $50 million. That's what Hawaii said. The money that you gave me, that I got from my father, I gave it to a socher, I gave it to a business owner. And today his store burned down. And all the merchandise, Allah, finito. So the Balatanya looks at his grandson. And this money he had to live for years. And he said, only if you had emunat chachamim, this would have never happened. He said, this happens only when people have a lack of emunat chachamim. They have a lack in belief in their teachers and their scholars. And the Balatani said, I want to tell you a story. We all know, or if you don't know, you're going to know now. The Balatanya, at a very young age, he was a ilui. He was a genius. He had a choice when at the age of, I think, 20, to pick between two yeshivot. Where is he going to learn? Either I think he was supposed to go to the Pnei Yoshua, or he was going to go to the Maggid Mizrich, the Baal Shem Tov student. And he told himself, he said, Gemara, Halacha, Hashkafa, I know how to learn. But he said, I don't know how to daven. I don't know how to pray. So I'm going to go to the Maggid. As he was traveling to his future Rebbe's yeshiva, the way it was, they used to travel for a couple weeks. They would stay there for a couple months, then they would travel back home. And then again. As he was traveling, he got to a town, a Ruski town, and he saw there's no Yid in there. Got there very late, and he said, what am I going to do? It's too cold, I cannot travel the rest of the night. If I don't stop, I'm going to die from the cold. And he said, but how am I going to stay here? These are all Ruskis. They hate Jews. So he was looking, he was going over the town, the whole town. It was very late at night. He said, I'm going to see one light. I'm going to know this is a Yehudi. Why? Who stays up at night? Yehudim, to learn Torah. He found one light. Knocks on the door. He says, Shalom Aleichem. Haim yesh makom. Is there a place for me to settle tonight? I'm going to the holy Rav Maggid of Mizrich tomorrow. I need a place to stay tonight. The guy didn't ask twice. He said, Kanetz Kvodo, come in. Made him ready, settle him down. He said, do you want to eat? Start preparing him food and making him this. And he was an elderly man. And the Balatanya started to get in conversation with him. And he said, what is the Kvodo doing over here? there's only goyim. And the Jew was saying, yeah, I'm the only Jew here, but I have a parnasah here, I have a liquor thing over here, and I sell to the goyim. He said, no Shabbat. He said, Shabbat, I don't have a minyan, but I pray at home. Chagim, he said, Chagim, the whole month of the Chagim, the whole Tishrei, I take my whole family and I go to Vilna, and I spend it over there, the whole place over there. So the Baal Tanya looks at him, he says, and how many families are in Vilna? He said, thousands or hundreds, big amount of families. And he said, wow, and they all have parnasah? He said, yeah. So he looks at this guy that sells alcohol. He said, so Hashem has enough parnasah for all of them, but not for you? And the guy said, he made that face. The Baal Tanya finished eating. He went to his bed to sleep. Suddenly, 5 in the morning when the sun starts to peak, that's when people used to wake up because they had a short day and they had a long night. They can't travel or do anything at night. He hears, he got scared, he woke up, what's going on? Puts on his clothes, does nekavasa, goes downstairs, then puts on his clothes. And he sees this guy with his family packing up all their stuff, and he says, where are you going? He said, you know, what you told me yesterday really affected me. I'm moving to Vilna. After you went to sleep, I went to this goy, my neighbor. He was begging to buy my business for years. I said, no. I decided I'm going to sell it to him. I'm going to take the money, I'm going to move to Vilna. Okay? And the Baal Tanya went, and he went on his way. Baal Tanya learned by the Magid, time to leave, he left. The halacha goes whenever you go to a certain town and you slept by someone's house, when you go back to that town, you have to go back to that person's house. There's halacha like that. Unless he's not there or he doesn't want you. But if not, then he's the first person you have to go to. He's traveling back from the Magid. He goes to this town and suddenly he sees the house that he was staying. He knows that the Jewish man left, but the house is not there. He knocks on the door and he says, well, do you know what happened to this house? The guy says, don't even ask. There was a Jew living here. He sold his business. 2 days later, his whole house and business went on flames. Everything left. What are you talking about? And what's with the Jew? He said, we heard this Jew in Vilna is a very big oisher now. He has a lot of ksafim. He took the money and he went there and he opened up new businesses there. And the Baal Tanya looks at his grandson and he says, this man heard Musar from me when I was a young Bachar. And look how it changed his life. We are lacking belief in our Rebbeim. You know, when I see it, it's so scary because sometimes you can ask your Rebbe a question and he answers you, and that's nevuah, that's prophecy. Even though he's not, that's like Ruach HaKodesh. I'm telling you, it's so scary. I see it all the time when I speak to my Rebbeim. They'll tell me to do certain things, and I don't know why they're saying it. And I'm sometimes nikshol, and I don't listen. I'm gonna be honest. But majority of the time when I listen, I'm telling you, it's like I see Yad Hashem coming out of his mouth after the fact. Because after things happen, I'm like, wow. And I see this also, I'm not trying to praise him. I see this when I say things to my Talmidim. It's like when you have certain influence and certain people attached to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you a certain siyata d'shmaya. We have to understand that the power of our growth is in Emunat Chachamim. We have to take it and eat it and live it and sleep with it. And this is this week's parasha. Because the Bli Tam Vada, that beyond understanding, was Yoresh to the people that learn Torah and the people that lead Klal Yisrael. There are certain things that are unexplainable but that happen. And Hashem gifted to the people that control and rule the other people. Does anyone have any questions? Any topic? Okay. Thank you and have a great night.